Located in Oaxaca, southern Mexico, we all know Barra de la Cruz as one of the best sand bottom rides on the planet. But Barra isn't just any old point break. Since its discovery around the turn of the century, the small Zapotec village not only hosts a world-class wave, but also exemplifies what a united community can achieve. The small town has worked tirelessly to fight overdevelopment, protect its natural environment, and preserve its cultural heritage amidst ever-growing external pressures. But it hasn't been a smooth ride, and this video is that ride. This is the story of Barra de la Cruz. For a long time, right up until the late 90s in fact, Barra was only known to local fishermen and a few adventurous wave riders. While there are various tales from the first surfers to ever ride waves here, their stories aren't well documented, and it's said that locals and a few adventurous travellers were the first to ride waves in these parts. The spot was largely kept quiet, as a rumour, a myth even. And it stayed like this right up until 2006, when the point suddenly gained worldwide attention after the 2006 Rip Curl Search event was held at the point. The Search event, part of the WSL's, then ASP, Championship Tour, was blessed with flawless conditions throughout the event, and the conditions highlighted how amazing the waves were at this particular point. The event cast a spotlight on the point and pinned Barra onto the world surfing map. As you'd expect, the exposure from the '06 event led to a surge in surf tourism, which had surfers flocking there in search of the same thing they'd seen in the event. Now, this surge brought both economic opportunity and environmental challenges to the region. The local community saw the potential negative impacts of what major tourism could bring, not just from a surfing perspective, but from a cultural and environmental one. So to understand how Barra de la Cruz fought and continues to fight such challenges, we first got to understand how the town operates. Barra de la Cruz operates under a unique self-governance model that's rooted in Zapotec traditions. This means that decisions regarding land use, tourism, and community welfare are made collectively through a local assembly, ensuring that any development that does happen aligns with the community and cultural values. And land and business ownership in town and the greater region are restricted to native community members, meaning anyone who isn't from Barra can't own land in the town. So this means that external developers who might want to build hotels, surf camps and resorts can't. Now, this governing system is known as an ejido. Now, an ejido is a system of communal land ownership established after the Mexican Revolution. In this system, land is owned and managed collectively by the community, not by individuals or the federal government. The community decides how the land is used, including who can access certain areas, such as the beach. The federal government recognizes and supports this structure, but does not directly control how the lands are managed day to day. The village's coastline has also been designated a turtle conservation area since 1984, prohibiting construction that threatens the ecosystem. Barra de la Cruz's ejido has prevented dozens of proposed projects, rejecting several large hotel plans. They've also built eco-friendly facilities that operate under communal control and have generally just chosen to prioritize the environment and their heritage over fast tourism growth. Now, because of this system, Barra today remains how it's always been. Basically a cluster of just sandy streets. In town, you're only ever going to find limited accommodations that are all family owned and operated. There's not really proper roads, there's really basic facilities. There's only really a handful of restaurants, handful of shops. It really is rustic and pretty old school, and because of this system, it's not gonna, well, hopefully not gonna get developed past that. The town, while it doesn't technically restrict the amount of surfers, it's still very crowded at Barra, there is a regulated access system for surfers. And the way this works is basically anyone who wants to go and surf Barra have to go through a checkpoint on their way to the break and basically pay 100 pesos, which I think is around 5 USD. Now, this fee helps to generate income for the town, and helps with things like community projects and to help maintain the beach. So to surf Barra, you have to pay a little to play, which, you know, it's more than worth it. It's such an amazing wave. It's not much money, and that money does go to the community, which is a really good thing. There is localism here, and it's kind of more prominent than a lot of other places in the world because the localism is sort of an extension of this sort of self-governing arm that they have over the town. You know, the locals do really make a point of getting their waves, and they do get them. So my best advice is just to sort of give them their space, you know, let them take any wave they want, and you kind of just get whatever they're not catching. It's definitely worth doing that, you know. When it's good, there's so many waves coming through and people fall, and you're gonna get waves if you surf all day, and, you know, there's nothing else to do there, so it's worth just doing that. You know, disrespecting locals in Mexico, it's not really like the kind of place you want to piss anyone off. You know, it's Mexico, which I always feel is like a place where anything can happen, including some sketchy stuff. So yeah, definitely try and stay on the right side of the locals. It's also where I've seen like pretty gnarly localism. Like once this guy, I think he dropped in on a local and he did it a couple of times, which is obviously freaking stupid. But one of the locals like ripped off his leash and like pushed his brand new sharp eye like into the rocks behind like where you take off. So that's pretty gnarly. So yeah, definitely don't do that. But despite all of these proactive measures that people in Barra take, Barra still faces its challenges and conflict. And I'm not just talking about the surf, I'm talking about the actual land itself. And this is an issue that's cast a dark light over the town. Now, Cristino was a prominent member of the Defensores Ambientalistas de Barra de la Cruz, a collective committed to preserving the region's ecological integrity. Since 2013, Perez had been at the forefront of resisting developers' attempts to seize oceanfront land around Barra, which included approximately 24 hectares of beachfront land for hotel construction. His activism was instrumental in the federal government's 2023 designation of the area as a natural protected area, which saw the protection of mangroves and sea turtle nesting sites in the area. And while not official, foul play is suspected, with many sources stating that he was actually assassinated in retaliation for his strong defense of the land. And Cristino's death isn't an isolated incident. In 2018, Noel Castillo Aguila, a member of the Committee for the Defense of Indigenous Rights, was murdered, and in 2021, community leader Jose Castillo Castro survived another assassination attempt. Now, the assassinations have drawn condemnation from human rights organizations and environmental groups, and these attacks highlight the escalating violence faced by environmental defenders in the region. Additionally, the border region of Oaxaca has witnessed increased violence against activists, raising concerns about the safety of communities that resist exploitation. In addition to these threats, Barra has also consistently faced threats from its unique geographical location. Barra lies on the Pacific coast, which is hit by storms during hurricane season, and in May 2022, the area experienced one of the biggest hurricanes to ever make landfall on the Pacific coast of Mexico. This was known as Hurricane Agatha, a Category 2 hurricane that made landfall just northwest of Barra at Puerto Angel. The storm brought torrential rain, flooding and wind damage to the region, including in Barra, with landslides destroying some roads and structures. I actually happened to be in Barra for this storm, and yeah, it was pretty freaking crazy. There's basically power went out for a few days. It had such intense rain, like heaviest rain I've ever seen. So like a lot of Barra was flooded, a lot of the surrounding coast was all flooded. There were landslides over the Mex 200, like the main highway that runs along the coast. Barra was like cut off, so people had to go into Huatulco up the coast, and even there was like no power and no yeah, it was pretty crazy. There was a small village close by that basically got washed away. I think a few people died in that. So it was like a really crazy scenario. I remember it so clearly. And yeah, it's just a really scary, like chaotic period of time. So while Barra de la Cruz certainly still faces its challenges, Barra de la Cruz stands as a testament to the power of community-led governance in protecting cultural and environmental assets. Through collective decision making and sustainable practices, the village has managed to protect its heritage and natural resources. However, the recent challenges highlight the need for continued support to ensure that this surf sanctuary remains resilient in the face of adversity. So that's the story of Barra, Cruz, the lesser known side to one of the best waves on Earth.